Look, I get it. That autofocusing option does look appealing. I can see why people would opt for it over manual focus, because like, manually pulling focus? Isn't that like manual labor? But here's the thing. If you want to start making filmmaking a career, autofocus will actually be holding you back. You might be wondering why I've decided to make this video, and it's because over the years, on the lower end sets that I've been on, including my own, you'll often come across a camera person, whether it be the DOP or the behind the scenes still photographer, using autofocus. And that's something that's always just baffled me, because I'm like, why are you letting the machine control your shots? And yeah, you might be thinking, well, because it knows exactly what to focus on based on the contrast or what's in that center of framing, blah blah blah. Yeah, but I've been on these sets where they use it, and it's so unreliable. You can tell that they're getting frustrated that it isn't focusing on what they want. And I'm always just left there thinking, just switch to manual focus. But they don't. And I don't get that. Because I understand there are use cases for autofocus, which I'll get onto, but there are extreme examples where manual focusing should be the priority and should be something that every single filmmaker that wants to step behind a camera should know how to do. But if you're not so confident with manual focusing, don't worry, I've got you covered. Let's take a look at some tips that will help you out. It's just a few small things that will help you out at the end of the day, such as using an external monitor to observe the shot as you're recording it. It might seem like a bit of a pointless addition on set when you already do have a little built-in monitor on your camera, but these things are tiny and you can't just rely on your eyesight in this because it's a very compressed little image. Getting an external monitor, usually like a 5-inch or 7-inch, just plonking it on top of your camera will save you the headache because you will be able to tell so much quicker and while recording whether something's actually in focus or not, because it'll be a lot sharper and it'll be a much bigger display, obviously. Of course, that is me suggesting going out and buying a new piece of hardware for your camera, but these days there are actually a lot of apps that allow you to use your phone or tablet as a monitor as well. So it's always worth checking to see if your camera is at least compatible with one of these, at least in the meantime. If you're not going to go that route, you can also use the built-in focus peaking software. Not all cameras do have this. This Canon 600D doesn't, but a lot of more modern cameras, and especially the cinema grade cameras, do have built-in focus peaking. And this will try to demonstrate what is in focus, represented by the red lines. Obviously, the more sharp you are with your focus, the redder that part of the image will become. That makes sense, right? One thing that I used to do on my old DSLR before I had focus peaking or an external monitor is I would just digitally punch in to what needed to be in focus at that time and then try my best to get it as sharp as I can and then hit record. Some more modern cameras, including some cinema cameras, do allow you to do this while recording at the same time, meaning that while you're recording somebody, you can digitally punch into the image and hope to try and get them in focus a bit better, because it does give you this really nice tight digital close-up of what's actually being in focus without baking that into the actual recording. Again, maybe not ideal, but combine this with focus peaking and an external monitor, you're just going to have the best results at manually focusing, unless you're blind. I guess that would be a problem. At that point, just rely on autofocus, I guess. Another more traditional technique that is used by the Hollywood sets is measuring out the distance between the camera/lens and the actor in the scene, and then setting markers for both of them respectively as points to hit throughout the scene so that they're both collaborating to hit the focus points at the specific predetermined times. Now, I'm not going to go over the measure and tape aspect of this, since I don't use it myself, and I haven't really seen many lower budget productions use it either, including the professional ones. But the marker points are very helpful regardless. This way you can easily set markers for the actor to hit when moving throughout a scene, where the focus puller will be waiting, having their own marked position on their focus wheel, ready to pull focus to. This is a more mechanical way of pulling focus, But it is a traditional technique that we've been using as far back as when film cameras were all we had, and your only reliable source of focusing in the moment is whatever the camera operator can see through the viewfinder at that time. Crazy, but yeah. Just get some tape, trust me, it's brilliant. Another thing that you probably also noticed me do is I set up a light stand as my reference for where I'll be in the focus line, and then I go behind the camera and get the focus based on this. Not ideal, but I don't have anybody else with me because I don't have any friends. But I've used it for years and it's kind of done the job. Like right now, I should be in focus because this is where I've put the tape on the floor. At my feet, I've set the marking point for where I will be standing, and it should be in focus here. So now we bring in the actor and we go for an actual take. So 3, 2, 1, action. Well, well, well. Another handy way to do focus pulling without too much worry is not to open up the f-stop too much. Don't go all the way to f1.8 just because the lens can do f1.8. It's going to be way too much of a shallow depth of field, and if you are inexperienced, it's just going to be far too much more of an extra headache for no reason. So I usually go for like a 3.5 for this YouTube channel just because I have a little bit more wiggle room in the camera lens than I would at f1.8. So the higher the number, the more that's going to be in focus basically. Like these usually go all the way down to f22, which gives you pretty much most of the range, especially when you get past a certain point that you don't necessarily have to worry too much about the focusing. But if you do want to open it all the way up to f1.8 or something, that's when you're definitely going to have to make sure you're definitely in focus. So yeah, again, just a little thing worth noting that might help you out. So yeah, just some little tips on manually focusing that I use on my own sets. So yeah, back to you, Chris. Of course, it's worth noting that not every manual focusing lens works the same as each other. Even like cinema lenses, I've used a few from a few kits that I've rented out before that are either clearly a bit broken or they just have completely different focus points to what I'm used to on my own lenses. The one that I'm shooting this with is a traditional nifty 50 Canon lens, and I love the focus pulling on this. I always feel like instinctively I kind of know where the focus point is on there. Like if I need to hit this mark, I know roughly to, ooh, there we are, we're here. But with some higher end lenses that I've used, they're clearly not kept in great condition, or they're just not great lenses to begin with. I know this 14mm lens I was using one time, I just could not find the focus point on that. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how close I tried to look, it just never seemed to quite get there. This actually can be a problem with lenses in general when you open them up all the way to their lowest f-stop number. It can be because of a multitude of things, whether it be a wear and tear to the condition of the lens over the years, or just the build quality in general. So that is another thing worth keeping in mind going forward. And I've also had autofocusing lenses that are so noisy and take forever to try to find what they're supposed to focus on. Obviously that's not every autofocusing lens. I know they all work kinda differently. Of course there are positive use cases for autofocus. I mean, it is a thing for a reason. This isn't an anti-autofocus video, don't worry. It's just that when you get to the professional world, that this just isn't even an option. So let's get on to that. In today's world, people are always talking about AI replacing human jobs. It's a real-world fear that I'm sure we've all come across at some point in our lives recently, including in the film industry. However, machines have had the opportunity to replace humans for quite a while now, and quite confidently, in the focusing aspect of the film world. But it hasn't. That's the thing. On a real-world set, focus pulling isn't just a technical job, it's an artistic choice. A late focus pull can feel different to an early one. I don't know why, this isn't demonstrating anything. Letting focus drift for an emotional beat can completely change the feeling of a scene. Autofocus can't do that for you. That does lead me on to my next point though. Manual focusing can be your job. First assistant camera people, also known as first SCs, are typically responsible for the focus pulling. And it is a big deal. They need to work closely with the director of photography and camera operator to set focus points, mark them down on their focusing reel, and carefully analyze the focus point as the scene plays out in real time from their own external monitor. It is teamwork. The DOP decides the shot, the camera operator sets the shot, and the first AC has to nail the focus in the shot. Sometimes that means predicting where the actor is going to land and pulling focus almost blindly, based on muscle memory, but also ideally the rehearsal beforehand. It is a real film job that you can get, but it's not something that you can get if all you've ever done is rely on autofocus. If you ever want to work in narrative TV or film, you just simply do need to know how to pull focus, along with set the markings for pulling focus. The thing is, if you want to become a camera person in real life, if you want to be the DOP or just a camera operator, usually you have to go through the ranks. That means being like a camera trainee, a second AC, which is usually the camera slate and setting up the camera with the first AC, and then a first AC, which again, pulling focus. Even with advanced autofocus and focus tracking systems of today's cameras, high-end productions still rely on human ACs because the director's intention can't be automated. Like, for example, maybe you have two actors within a scene, one in front of the other, and maybe one actor is speaking, but the director wants the focus to drift to the other character in the scene, reacting silently to the other character. Autofocus won't know when to do that, and it probably won't do it as smoothly as a human being. Focusing isn't just about the image being sharp or blurry, it's about making an emotional choice. This is the sort of reason why manual control matters in filmmaking. Filmmaking is storytelling. It's not just about the mechanics. Autofocusing is easy, I get it. It's a tool that helps people get the shot that they want effortlessly. Obviously when it comes to like mobile phone usage, I'll just have autofocus on. But even then, it's like, sometimes it just doesn't focus on what I want, or it'll be constantly hunting back and forth on the thing that I've clicked to autofocus on, but it just won't. Autofocus is unreliable. Now, I do want to clarify that I'm well aware that autofocus can be exceptional in today's world. There are tons of ways that lenses and camera bodies have leveled up in this department, and I often do hear praise for the Sony cameras in particular, and I have actually been really impressed with the Nikon ZR that came out this last week, to the point where I can actually see autofocus being quite naturalistic and beautiful in its own right. But again, this isn't something that the professional world will likely ever adopt. It just never will be as reliable or artistic as a trained human focus puller. I mean, I still would like a good autofocus kit for my YouTube channel, at least. But you know, I mean, at the end of the... Okay, I only have one camera that is really any decent at autofocus, and it's this camera. So let's give it some tests. Okay, maybe autofocus is kind of cool. Oh man, I really wish my Sony could do this. Okay, maybe I'm changing my mind a little bit. I admit it.